Hi guys, Nikolai from NASH here. Today I'm going to be doing a short installation guide on the NASH Front Suspension for the Xiaomi M365. And essentially I'm going to be breaking the video down into two parts. The first being the disassembly of the original front fork on your Xiaomi, and the second being the assembly and installation of the NASH Front Suspension. If there's anything that you feel like I'm leaving out in the video or not focusing on enough, please just leave a comment down below or reach out by email, and I'll be very happy to help the best that I can. I think that's about it. So without any further ado, let's just get right down to it. Alright, so the first thing that we need to do is to remove the wheel, so we can remove the old front fork. Now, in order to remove the wheel, we need access to the two bolts. There is one on each side that is holding the wheel to the fork inside. And so in order to get there, we need to remove these little plastic guards here. So we'll start by just taking off the reflex so that we can access the screws that are hidden underneath it. So just wedge that off with I'm using a flat screwdriver. You can use a sharp little knife or something as well. So just removing the reflexes on both sides. I'll just turn that so you can follow here as well. Just like that. And it should allow me to peel that off. There we go. And then just use a small Allen key to unscrew those. There's 4 on the right side and just 2 on the left side. So using a small Allen key, we're just going to loosen those. Maybe one number smaller, I can see. There we go. And so now we want to loosen the nut here on each side so that we can gently slide the wheel out from the fork. Now you can either use an adjustable wrench, and in case that doesn't do it, use something larger. Now, sometimes it's like the manufacturer added a little too much thread lock, so then you will need the larger tools. On this particular unit, I've had the whole thing disassembled before, so I should be fine with this. So just go ahead and unscrew that, minding this engine wire right here. So be careful with that. And remember also, when we put everything back together, it's always good to use some thread lock, because that just keeps everything nicely assembled. So I do this, I just wedge out the wire a bit so that I have clearance to remove this nut here. And then hold the wheel as you do the other side as well. Just go ahead and loosen that however much you need with the tool, and then when you can, just do the rest with your hand, and make sure to get that out all the way as well. And that just drops the wheel out. So for now, just leave the wheel right here on this side, because remember, it is still attached with this wire. Just make sure that it stays closed like this, or you can even put it up here to give us a little more space to work with. And now the next part that we need to do is essentially we just need to take out the whole front fork. and that is going to take place right up here at the folding assembly. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do now is to remove the center bolt that is located inside of this folding mechanism. And we need to do that because that will allow us to slide out the front fork. So in order to get to that, just unlock the folding lever here and then pull that down. Sometimes that can be a little difficult. Just like that. And open it just like that. And so now inside you will see a bolt that you will need a 5mm Allen key to loosen. So go ahead and unscrew that first. Just get that center bolt out, and that will look, see if I can get that, that'll look like this. This metal piece with the long bolt and one little silver washer inside. So just go ahead and save that, because we will need that again when assembling everything. Now we need to turn our attention to these two screws here. Now they don't need to actually be taken out entirely. We can just loosen them, because that will allow us to finally slide the fork out down here so we can install the new suspension. So let's go ahead and get those loosened. Whilst, again, remember, we need to hold the fork at the bottom so it doesn't drop out on us. Just like that. And just loosening them, about that amount should be enough to take off the whole steering bar here. There we go. And let me just bring you a little closer so you can see what's actually happening up here. So what we have now is this little silver screw that we need to take out. That is sort of a safety mechanism, so the fork doesn't go further than this. So we just need to remove that screw, and then we can actually pull out the front fork. So all we need to remove that is just a small Allen key. Just like that. And that actually comes out relatively easy. Remember, hold the fork up as you do this so it doesn't slide out on you. Just like that. And we should be able to do the rest here by hand. And so now, bear in mind that you should try to hold all of, because there's a certain amount of rings up here at the top. So just drag it out carefully whilst keeping all the rings at the top in place. And you'll be left with this. Now this ball bearing ring, we need to take off for now and just save that. And so now we have the old front fork, and what we want to do is we want to remove this screw here at the bottom, because we need to reuse this mudguard on the new NASH front fork. So just go ahead and use the 5mm Allen key to remove that. Go. So while we have the mudguard handy here, we will just go ahead and put it onto the new NASH front fork. Now bear in mind that the screw here is going to be far too long to fit the new NASH mudguard. So just remove that screw. And the screw that you then want to use is going to be the one that was included in the small white plastic bag. You will find a much shorter little black screw, and that's what you will need to fasten the mudguard. Bear in mind that this is going to be the front. So where the concave sort of shape is, that is the front, and the other side here is the back. So the mudguard is going to be added like this. So the short end is facing forwards and the long end is facing backwards. And then you just want to use that little screw to fix that mudguard. And make sure that you align it, because it just looks a lot nicer. And just like that should do the trick. So now you have the mudguard fastened to the new NASH Front Suspension. And so now what you want to do is you want to add the ball bearing ring onto here. So that'll allow it to nicely turn here at the bottom. And then you just slide the front fork up on through everything here at the top. And actually, let me just show you the sort of order of the rings up here in case they fell off earlier or whatnot. So slide it up on through, and the sort of order of the rings at the top should be a ball bearing ring facing this way. And then this large, thick black ring on top of that. And then this small black ring facing this way on top of that one. And then this here at the very top. So just drop those down so that all, and you need to make sure that it sits firmly down there. So push the fork all the way up here at the bottom and then place those rings into it. So that'll make sure that you don't end up with some sort of wobble in the steering, and that's definitely not what we want. So again, this one is just going to need to be pushed a bit, and that's actually what it does, is it keeps all the other rings in place when you add this final ring here. Just like that. And then you add this plastic sort of spacer at the very top, and note it has two holes on the inside that are supposed to go into the holes of the last ring that we added. So you'll just sort of hear it click on there. Just like that. So now you have the entire assembly here. Let me just show you again. Just like that. And so now you need to add this other small little black screw that was included in the kit, the headless one. You add that into this hole here on the side. And so now what we need to do is we need to add the center screw right here at the front. So just run that down through, the same screw that we removed before. And remember, this one is a 5mm Allen key that you just use to tighten that. And don't put it down 110%, just put it down so when it starts tightening, you just hold off there. Because what will happen is if you squeeze it too much, if you force it all the way down, it will not allow for free movement, and you may have problems sort of turning the steering around. And then just tighten these bolts here on this side, those two that are located here on the left hand side. And there's no need to tighten them in all the way just yet, because we will need to do some alignment after we get the wheels on. And just go ahead and fasten those for now. And so now we just need to add the front wheel, then do a short alignment, and then lastly install the new extended kickstand that will fit the new ride height. Now when adding the wheel, have a look here. One side of this bolt in here is going to have this short silver stop sticking up. Now the silver stop needs to be facing upwards. And that just makes sure that when you're riding, it's not wearing on the thread of this bolt. So just go ahead and insert the wheel from the bottom here. And make sure that it goes in with that way facing up. And make sure that it does so on both sides as well. So it may take a little while just to get that aligned. And there we go. So now just go ahead and tighten those. You can start by doing it by hand, just to make sure that they're not going anywhere. And then you move on with the adjustable wrench to get them on there nicely. Now again, it's not mandatory, it's just a suggestion. I really do suggest that you use just any sort of thread locker on this part. Now I'm gonna be uninstalling this and doing another tutorial soon again, so I will leave that out of the equation for now, but I do recommend that you use that because it just keeps everything sitting exactly where it should be. So let's go ahead and just tighten those nuts there. There we go. And turn it around. Just like that. Just give this one a quick spin more to be sure. There we go. And you'll notice this little fancy device here. That will be to put the cable inside, so it doesn't just sit there on the side. Quite nice little feature, I think. And there we go. And just test that you do have the full range of motion. And if not, just pull down on the cable a bit until you feel that you have that. Also, I will note that it is possible to pull about an extra centimeter out up here of the cable. So you want to make sure that it doesn't give you any restriction on your turning. So just like that, we are actually done with the installation part. And now all I want to do is to just show you how to do the alignment process to make sure that the steering is exactly where it should be. And then end up with the kickstand setup as well. So now in order to do your alignment, you will want to start by just loosening these two bolts a bit with the 5mm Allen key. And the reason we do that is because that then allows the steering bar to turn separately from the wheel itself. Just like that is enough. And then you stand up here, place your feet around the wheel, and just turn the steering until you feel that it is nice and straight. I will say that is about a line for me. And so I'll just head back down and simply tighten those screws up again. Do make sure that you tighten them well so that you don't risk losing the alignment again. And just like that, your steering is nicely aligned. And now the final stage is to replace the kickstand with the included extended one. And the reason you do that is because the ride height is now slightly higher at the front. And so if you use the old kickstand, it will simply not be able to stand very straight. It will be tilted a lot. So the way we do that is you can see you just need to remove those two bolts right there with an Allen key, something like a 3mm, and then basically just replace that with the new one and use those same bolts again. And that is everything.